I twirled the wine in my glass, feeling the familiar boredom creep in as Derek droned on about his latest software project. Across our polished dining table, Megan and Thomas nodded politely, but I could see the glaze forming over their eyes. It was our monthly dinner party in our perfect house, with our perfect friends, living our supposedly perfect life. And then the entire system just integrated seamlessly, Derek said, pushing his glasses up his nose with that excited look he gets. The client couldn't believe how smooth the transition was. I sighed loudly, interrupting him. Fascinating, honey. Really? Derek's smile faltered, but only for a second. He was used to this by now. Vanessa redecorated the bedroom again, he offered, clearly trying to include me in the conversation. It looks amazing. For the third time this year, I said, refilling my glass. I get bored easily. Megan straightened in her chair. Well, I think it's wonderful that Derek lets you express yourself that way. Thomas would have a fit if I spent that kind of money on redecorating. Derek doesn't let me do anything, I said, my voice sharper than intended. The wine was hitting harder tonight. I do what I want. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Derek cleared his throat. Who wants dessert? I made that chocolate souffle everyone liked last time. Always the perfect host, I muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. Always so accommodating. Thomas laughed nervously. Man, I wish my wife thought that was a bad thing. It's not bad, I said, swirling my wine again. It's just not exciting, is it? Not very manly. Derek's face tightened. Vanessa, what? I'm just being honest. The wine was definitely talking now. Remember when we met, Thomas? Derek was this brilliant coding genius everyone wanted to hire. I thought I was getting some tech rebel. Turns out I got the world's nicest doormat instead. Vanessa, maybe we should, Derek started. You know why I married him? I interrupted, gesturing with my glass, wine sloshing dangerously close to the edge. Because all the real men weren't available. The words hung in the air like smoke. Megan's mouth dropped open. Thomas stared at his plate. And Derek? God, Derek's face just crumbled, piece by piece, like watching a building collapse in slow motion. I think we should probably get going, Megan said finally, standing up. Early day tomorrow. No dessert? Derek asked automatically, though his voice had lost all its earlier enthusiasm. After they left, Derek silently cleared the table. I kicked off my heels and sprawled on our designer couch, scrolling through my phone. A text from Jason lit up my screen. Thinking about you, like old times. I smiled, feeling a flutter I hadn't experienced in years. Jason and I had been explosive in college, passionate, unpredictable, exciting, everything Derek wasn't. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight, Derek announced from the doorway. I didn't look up from my phone. Fine. Is that all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Derek? That I'm sorry for telling the truth? He stood there for a long moment. You know, I keep thinking that eventually you'll actually see me, the real me, not whatever version you've invented to be disappointed in. I see you perfectly clearly, I said, still typing a response to Jason. No, you really don't. He turned to leave, then paused. And what's worse is I'm starting to think you don't want to. When he was gone, I sent my reply to Jason. Thinking about you too. Coffee tomorrow? His response came almost immediately. Name the place. Can't wait to see you. I fell asleep on the couch, not bothering to check if Derek was really in the guest room. He'd get over it by morning. He always did. But the next day, Derek was already gone when I woke up. No coffee made, no note, nothing. Just the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the bathroom, telling me he'd showered and left. That was new. I texted him, "Where are you?" His reply came an hour later. Work. Busy day. So formal. Not even an emoji. Definitely still sulking. I dressed carefully for my meeting with Jason, casual enough to seem like I wasn't trying, but every piece strategically chosen. The jeans that made my legs look endless, the silk blouse that suggested without revealing. I wasn't cheating. This was just coffee with an old friend. The coffee shop was crowded when I arrived. Jason stood up and waved from a corner table, and my heart actually skipped. He looked good, better than in college actually, more filled out, less boy and more man. "Vanessa Mitchell," he said, giving me a lingering hug. Still the most beautiful woman in any room. I laughed, settling into my chair. "And you're still full of it, Jason Reed?" "Only the truth for you," he said, sliding a latte across the table. "Still your favorite, right? Vanilla with an extra shot?" I raised an eyebrow. "You remember that after all these years?" "I remember everything about you," he said, leaning forward. "The good, the bad, and the spectacular." 2 hours passed like minutes. Coffee turned into lunch, which turned into afternoon drinks at the bar next door. The conversation flowed effortlessly, jumping between memories, updates, and just enough flirtation to keep things interesting. "So tell me about married life," Jason said, nursing his whiskey. "Is it everything you dreamed of?" I snorted. "Hardly. I hesitated, then decided why hold back. "It's boring. Derek is reliable." "You say that like it's a disease," Jason laughed. "Sometimes it feels like one. He's just so predictable. I always know exactly what he's going to say, what he's going to do. There's no challenge." Jason nodded sympathetically. "And you've always needed a challenge." "Exactly," I said, grateful that someone understood. "Last night I said something awful at dinner, in front of our friends." "How awful?" "I told everyone I married Derek because real men weren't available." Jason winced. "Ouch." I know. But it's been building up for so long. He's just so accommodating, so eager to please. It makes me want to scream sometimes. "You deserve better," Jason said, placing his warm hand over mine. "You deserve someone who excites you, challenges you." A thrill ran through me at his touch. "Someone like you?" His eyes held mine. "Maybe. We always did have chemistry." The afternoon stretched on, and by the time I looked at my watch, it was nearly 7. "I should get home," I said reluctantly. "Do you have to?" Jason asked, his thumb tracing circles on my wrist. For a moment I considered staying, but something held me back. Not guilt, exactly, but caution. "Rain check?" I offered. "I'll hold you to that," he said, helping me with my coat. When I got home, the house was quiet. Derek's car was in the garage, but there was no sign of him until I noticed light coming from beneath his home office door. I knocked, but there was no answer. Fine. 2 could play at that game. I tossed my purse on the kitchen counter, knocking over a stack of mail. As I picked it up, a credit card statement caught my eye, specifically a recurring charge at a restaurant downtown. 3 lunches in the past month with the same reference. Mitchell/Sophia. Sophia. The name rang a bell. I searched my memory and then remembered Derek's company party last Christmas. The young software engineer with the annoyingly perfect skin and natural beauty that didn't need makeup. The one who had laughed too hard at Derek's jokes. I marched to his office and pushed the door open without knocking. Derek looked up from his computer, surprise quickly replaced by that new, distant expression. "Having fun with Sophia?" I asked, waving the statement. He glanced at the paper, then back at his screen. "She's a coworker. We're working on a project together." "A project that requires 3 expensive lunches?" "It's a complicated project," he said, his voice frustratingly even. "And those lunches were with the entire team. You'd know that if you looked at the actual charges instead of just her name. Why is her name on our credit card statement at all?" "Because she organized the reservations." He sighed, finally looking at me properly. "Is there something else you need, Vanessa?" "I'm trying to finish this." His calmness infuriated me. Where was the reaction? The jealousy? The fight? I'm going out with friends this weekend, I announced. Overnight. Girls' trip. He just nodded. Have fun. That's it? Have fun? Aren't you going to ask who I'm going with? Where we're staying? Derek turned back to his computer. Would you answer truthfully if I did? The question caught me off guard. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, he said, typing something. I hope you have a good time. Close the door on your way out, please. I stood there for a moment, waiting for more, but he had already refocused on his work. Dismissed, like I was some interruption rather than his wife. As I closed the door, my phone buzzed with a text from Jason. Already missing you. Dinner tomorrow? I smiled and wrote back. Absolutely. Maybe this was exactly what I needed. Someone who actually appreciated me. Someone who made me feel desired, not just accommodated. I glanced back at Derek's closed office door and felt nothing but cold determination. He thought he could ignore me? Fine. I had better options anyway. Much better options. I just didn't realize then what those options would cost me. The restaurant was dimly lit, perfect for what had become our regular meetings. Jason reached across the table, his fingers intertwining with mine. You seem distracted tonight, he said, squeezing my hand. Derek and I had another non-fight, I sighed, taking a large sip of wine. It's like arguing with a wall lately. What happened this time? I mentioned seeing you, not like that, just as an old friend, and he didn't even blink. No questions, no jealousy, nothing. Jason leaned forward. Isn't that what you want? Freedom? I want something, a reaction at least. Forget about him tonight, Jason said, his smile making my pulse quicken. Focus on us. Dinner turned into drinks at a nearby bar, which turned into more drinks at another bar, which turned into stumbling into Jason's apartment at 1 a.m. His lips were on mine before the door closed. Stay tonight, he whispered, his hands already working at the buttons of my blouse. I hesitated for only a second. Yes? Morning light was streaming through the windows when I woke up. I checked my phone, 7:30 a.m., and 3 missed calls from Megan. No messages from Derek. Not even a, "Where are you?" I called a rideshare and arrived home just before 9. I walked in bracing myself for anger, accusations, maybe even tears. Instead, I found Derek at the kitchen island, calmly drinking coffee and reading something on his tablet. He looked up briefly. "Morning," he said, returning to his reading. I stood there, key still in hand. "That's it? Just morning? Would you prefer good morning?" he asked without looking up. That's when I noticed he was wearing a suit, not one of his usual bland office outfits, but a sharp charcoal gray suit that actually fit him perfectly. And was that a new haircut? "Why are you dressed like that?" I asked, tossing my purse on the counter. "I'm flying to San Francisco in a few hours. Tech conference." "What conference?" "You never mentioned any conference." Derek finally looked at me, his expression unreadable. "I told you last week. You said, and I quote, 'Whatever, have fun.'" Had he? I couldn't remember. "For how long?" 5 days, he said, closing his tablet case. "I'll be back Thursday evening." 5 days? What am I supposed to do for 5 days? A small smile played at his lips. "I'm sure you'll find ways to occupy your time, Vanessa." Something about his tone made me uncomfortable. I watched as he rinsed his coffee cup and placed it in the dishwasher with precise movements. "You need a ride to the airport?" I asked, attempting normalcy. "Already arranged. Car's coming in 20 minutes. He picked up his suitcase, a new one I noticed. "There's plenty of food in the fridge. I've paid all the bills for the month." "You don't need to treat me like a child." "I'm not," he said simply. "I'm treating you like someone I'm no longer sure cares what happens to me. It's different." Before I could respond, a horn honked outside. Derek checked his watch. "That's my ride, earlier than expected." He walked toward the door, then paused. Enjoy your week, Vanessa? The door closed behind him with a quiet click, and I was left standing in our spotless kitchen feeling strangely abandoned. I waited until evening to call Jason. Derek's gone for 5 days, I told him. Business trip. 5 whole days? I could hear the smile in his voice. Whatever will you do with yourself? I have some ideas. He came over that night, and the strange thrill of having him in our house, in our bed, momentarily pushed aside my unease about Derek's departure. But afterward, as Jason explored our home with undisguised interest, something felt off. This place is seriously impressive, Keaton, he said, examining the artwork in the hallway. Must have cost a fortune. Derek did well for himself, I said, pulling my robe tighter. For himself? You mean for both of you? Jason picked up a crystal decanter from the bar. This is baccarat, right? A couple thousand at least. Probably. I don't keep track. Jason set it down carefully. You know, you should be thinking about your financial security. I frowned. What do you mean? I mean, if things go south with Derek, you should make sure you're protected. Protected how? He shrugged casually. Separate accounts, maybe? Assets in your name, just in case. In case of what exactly? My voice had an edge. Nothing specific, he said, moving closer. I just care about you. Want to make sure you're taken care of. His hand slid around my waist. Maybe we could check your accounts together? See where things stand? I pulled away. I'm tired. I think you should go. Vanessa, I'll call you tomorrow. After he left, I couldn't sleep. Jason's questions about money kept replaying in my mind. The pattern continued for the next few days. Jason came over, we had sex, and he asked increasingly pointed questions about our finances, our assets, what was in my name versus Derek's. On the 3rd night, I accidentally spilled wine on our bed sheets, so we couldn't sleep there. I needed space to think. Thursday evening came, and with it, Derek's return. I'd cleaned the house, erasing all evidence of Jason's visits. Derek walked in looking tanned and rested. How was San Francisco? I asked, trying to sound casual. Productive, he said, setting down his suitcase. The weather was perfect. Meet anyone interesting? Several people, he said vaguely. You? How was your week? Fine. Quiet, I lied. Spent some time with friends. Anyone in particular? My heart jumped. Just the usual crowd. I kept talking, filling the silence. Megan and I had lunch on Monday. Then I met up with some old work friends. Claire called wanting to catch up, so we did coffee. I'm glad you weren't lonely, Derek said, with a small smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Over the next few weeks, I noticed changes. Small ones at first. Books missing from shelves. Empty spaces in the liquor cabinet where Derek's expensive whiskey collection had been. His favorite leather chair, gone from his office. Where's all your stuff going? I finally asked one morning. Just decluttering, he said, buttering his toast. I've been reading about minimalism. Since when do you care about minimalism? People change, Vanessa. I didn't push it, but later that day, I checked our joint accounts online. My stomach dropped. There had been several large withdrawals over the past month, 20,000 here, 30,000 there. I confronted him that evening. You're moving money without telling me. Derek closed his laptop calmly. I'm establishing my own accounts. Why would you do that? It seemed appropriate given the circumstances. I felt my face flush. What circumstances? He looked at me directly, his voice firm. Vanessa, you've made your feelings about me very clear. I'm simply adjusting accordingly. By stealing our money? Half our money, he corrected. My half. Everything is documented and transparent. There's nothing illegal about what I'm doing. This is about what I said at that dinner, isn't it? You're still punishing me. This isn't punishment, he said, standing up. This is self-preservation. Fear gripped me for the first time. I called Jason later that night, but he seemed distracted, our conversation brief. When I suggested meeting, he claimed he was swamped with work. The next morning, Claire called. "Drink with me after work? It's been too long." The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Claire hugged me tightly. "You look terrible," she said bluntly. "Thanks," I muttered. Always the supportive friend. "I am being supportive," she insisted, "by being honest. Derek's acting weird, taking his things, moving money around." Claire stirred her coffee slowly. "Can you blame him?" "What's that supposed to mean?" "V, everyone knows about you and Jason." My blood ran cold. "What are you talking about?" "You two aren't exactly subtle. Thomas saw you at Rivoli last month. Megan spotted you coming out of his apartment building, and Derek—" "Derek knows?" My voice was barely a whisper of course he knows. Claire reached for my hand. "He's not stupid, V. He's just been processing." "Did he say something to you?" "No." She squeezed my hand. "But he doesn't have to. It's written all over his face whenever someone mentions your name." "I don't know what to do," I admitted. "For starters, you could dump Jason," Claire said firmly. "He's using you, V. He's not—" "He asked Megan about Derek's stock options at the tech company," Claire interrupted. "Wanted to know if they were in joint accounts or separate." I felt sick. He wouldn't. He did. He's a gold digger, V. Always has been. Remember Melissa Warner in college, the one with the trust fund? Who do you think he dated right before you? The realization hit me like a physical blow. I've really screwed up, haven't I? Yes, Claire said simply. You have. Derek deserves better than this, V. She paused, her expression softening. And honestly, so do you. I stared into my untouched coffee, the truth of her words sinking in. I don't know if I can fix this. I don't know either, Claire admitted. But I do know it gets worse before it gets better if you keep seeing Jason. When I got home that night, the house was dark. Derek had left a note on the counter. Working late. Don't wait up. I sat alone in our dimly lit kitchen, finally seeing the wreckage I'd created. The question wasn't whether I could fix this anymore. It was whether there was anything left to save. After my conversation with Claire, I avoided Jason's calls for 3 days. I needed space to think, to figure out what I wanted. On the 4th day, I decided to come home early and talk to Derek. Really talk to him. Maybe there was still something worth saving. The moment I walked through the front door, I knew something was wrong. The hall closet door stood open, empty hangers where Derek's coat should have been. I heard movement upstairs and rushed up to our bedroom. Derek was there, methodically folding clothes into 2 large suitcases spread open on our bed. "What are you doing?" My voice came out higher than I intended. He didn't startle, didn't even look up. "Packing." "I can see that. Packing for what?" "I've accepted a position in our Seattle office," he said, placing a neatly folded sweater into the suitcase. "It comes with a significant promotion." "Seattle?" I repeated, trying to process his words. "You can't just leave?" Derek finally looked up at me, his eyes clear and resolved in a way I'd never seen before. "I filed for divorce last week. The papers are on the kitchen counter." The floor seemed to drop beneath me. "Divorce?" "Yes." "You didn't even talk to me about it." "Would you have listened?" he asked simply. I stood frozen, unable to form words. "You should review the papers," Derek continued, returning to his packing. "It's an equitable division of assets. The house will be sold. We'll split the proceeds." "What about alimony?" "There isn't any. You're young, healthy, and educated. You're perfectly capable of supporting yourself." I felt like I'd been slapped. "After everything I've done for you?" Derek stopped packing and looked directly at me. "What exactly have you done for me, Vanessa?" I supported your career. I was the perfect wife. I managed our social life, our home." "You managed appearances," he interrupted quietly. That's not the same thing as supporting me. I rushed downstairs to find the divorce papers neatly stacked on the kitchen counter, just as he'd said. As I flipped through them, the reality hit me. While I was playing games with Jason, Derek had been methodically planning his exit. "When do you leave?" I asked when he came downstairs carrying one of the suitcases. "Tomorrow morning." "Tomorrow? My flight's at 8 a.m. He set the suitcase by the door and turned to face me. "Our attorneys can handle most of this. I've been more than fair in the division of assets." "Fair?" My voice cracked. "You're destroying our life and you call that fair?" Something flashed in Derek's eyes, not anger, but something like pity. "Our life was destroyed the moment you decided I wasn't enough for you. This is about Jason, isn't it? It was nothing serious, just a distraction." "This isn't about Jason," Derek said with surprising gentleness. "This is about us. There is no us anymore, Vanessa. There hasn't been for a long time. You can't just throw away 8 years of marriage." "I'm not throwing anything away. I'm acknowledging what's already been lost." He checked his watch. "I have a dinner meeting. I'll be back late to finish packing." "With Sophia?" I asked bitterly. A small smile touched his lips. "Actually, yes, and the rest of the team. She's been instrumental in this transition." After he left, I called Jason in a panic. "Derek's leaving me. He filed for divorce." "Whoa, slow down," Jason said, sounding distracted. "What happened?" "He took a job in Seattle. He's leaving tomorrow. I need to see you." "Tonight's not great," he hedged. "I've got this work thing. Jason, please, I need you." "Look, give me an hour. I'll see what I can do." He never called back. After 3 more unanswered calls, I drove to his apartment. His car was in the parking lot, which meant he was home. I was about to knock when I glanced through his window. Jason wasn't alone. He was sitting on his couch with a woman, older than me, expensively dressed, with the kind of confidence that comes from old money. She laughed at something he said, touching his arm just as I had done so many times. I watched, frozen, as he leaned in closer, his hand on her knee, using the exact same moves he'd used on me. I drove home in a daze. The house felt enormous and empty. Derek hadn't returned yet. I poured myself a glass of wine, then another, staring at the divorce papers without really seeing them. When the doorbell rang, I jumped, hoping irrationally that it was Jason coming to explain. Instead, I found Sophia standing there looking uncomfortable. "Derek forgot his presentation materials," she said. "He sent me to pick them up while he finishes with the clients." I laughed bitterly. "Of course he did. Come in." She followed me warily into the house. "They're in his office, I think." "So you're the reason he's leaving," I said, blocking her path. Sophia sighed. "I'm not the reason for anything. I'm his colleague." "Just his colleague? Really?" "Yes, really." She met my gaze steadily. "I'm also his friend, and his mentor, actually. I've been with the company 12 years longer than Derek." I blinked in surprise. "But you're so young-looking? I get that a lot. I'm 47. The revelation knocked the wind out of my anger. "I know what you thought," she said, not unkindly. "But you were wrong. Derek would never cheat. That's not who he is." "How would you know who he is?" "Because I listen when he talks," she replied simply. "Do you?" 3 months later, I sat in my small 1-bedroom apartment, staring at my laptop screen. The luxury home had sold quickly, and after paying off our debts, my half had been enough for a modest down payment on this place, and not much else. I'd discovered Jason had emptied the emergency credit card I'd stupidly given him access to. $10,000 gone. I was back at my old company, having swallowed my pride and begged for my former position. They'd taken me back, but at a lower salary than when I'd left to become Derek's wife. It was lunch hour, and I was crossing the street to my usual sandwich place when I stopped cold. Through the window of the upscale restaurant across the street, I saw Derek. He wasn't alone. A woman sat across from him, not Sophia, but someone I'd never seen before. She was elegant, age-appropriate, and clearly intelligent from her animated gestures as she spoke. Derek was watching her with an expression I'd never seen before, complete absorption and joy. He laughed at something she said, his entire face lighting up. I ducked behind a parked car before they could spot me, my appetite gone. That night, unable to help myself, I checked Derek's social media for the first time since our separation. There it was, posted 2 hours ago. Derek was engaged to Dr. Rebecca Chen, a brilliant research scientist he'd met in Seattle. The comments section overflowed with congratulations about how perfect they were together, how they deserved happiness after everything he went through. I closed my laptop, a strange emptiness washing over me. I had become the villain in Derek's story, the obstacle he had overcome to find true happiness. The cautionary tale friends whispered about. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Dinner tomorrow?" No judgment, just support. I stared at the message for a long moment before replying, "Yes, I'd like that." It wasn't much, but it was a start. A small step toward whatever came next. The coffee shop was busier than usual for a Tuesday morning. I was already at our regular table when Claire walked in, bringing with her the bright energy that had been my lifeline this past year. "Sorry I'm late," she said, sliding into the chair across from me. "Traffic was a nightmare." "I ordered your usual," I said, pushing a steaming latte toward her. "Extra foam, cinnamon on top." "You're a lifesaver." She took a grateful sip, then studied me carefully. "How are you?" "Really?" This was our ritual now, no superficial answers allowed. "Therapy was rough yesterday," I admitted. "We talked about my parents. Turns out having a mother who treated my father like an accessory might have influenced my relationship patterns." "Who knew?" Claire smiled. "Growth isn't supposed to be comfortable, but it looks good on you, V." I touched my shorter hair self-consciously. Gone were the expensive highlights and extensions. This simpler cut was more manageable on my reduced budget, but also somehow more me. "I have to tell you something," Claire said, setting down her mug. "Derek and Rebecca got married yesterday." I felt a pang, but not the devastation I would have expected a year ago. "I know. You know? Megan told me last week." I traced the rim of my cup. "I sent them a gift, and a note apologizing for everything." Claire's eyebrows shot up. "You did? That's It wasn't for him," I explained. "It was for me. I needed to own what I did." "What did you say in the note?" "That I was sorry for not seeing his worth, for treating him like he was less than he was, that I'm glad he found someone who appreciates him." I smiled wryly. I kept it short. No one wants a therapy journal from their ex-wife. Claire reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm proud of you. That couldn't have been easy." "Easier than continuing to be the person I was," I admitted. "Dr. Levinson says shame keeps us stuck, but accountability helps us move forward." "Dr. Levinson sounds expensive, Claire joked. "Worth every penny I don't really have." We chatted about Claire's work drama and her new boyfriend, falling into the comfortable rhythm we'd established in this year of rebuilding. As she talked, my gaze drifted around the coffee shop and froze when it landed on a familiar figure by the window. Jason. He was sitting across from a woman about my age, leaning in with that same intent expression, that same practiced half-smile. His hand rested on hers in the exact same way it had once rested on mine. I could practically hear the lines he was feeding her. As if sensing my stare, Jason glanced up. Our eyes met briefly. Recognition flashed across his face, followed quickly by discomfort. He looked away first, angling his body to block his companion's view of me. "V? You still with me?" Claire waved her hand in front of my face. "Jason's here," I said quietly. 3 o'clock, working his magic on his next victim. Claire started to turn, but I shook my head. Don't. It doesn't matter. Want to leave? I considered the question, then surprised myself with the answer. Number he doesn't get to disrupt my coffee date. That's my girl, Claire grinned. So as I was saying before we spotted the snake in the garden? 20 minutes later, we were gathering our things to leave. Jason and his companion were still deep in conversation. You go ahead, I told Claire. I need to use the restroom. You sure? I can wait. I'm sure. See you Thursday for movie night? After Claire left, I walked directly past Jason's table on my way to the restroom. I didn't stop, didn't say a word, but I held my head high, met his eyes briefly, and continued walking. I felt his gaze on my back, but didn't turn around. Outside, I took a deep breath of the crisp autumn air, feeling unexpectedly lighter. The sky was that perfect shade of blue that only seems to happen in October. My phone buzzed with a text from my boss. Client loved your proposal. Green light on the project. I smiled, tucking the phone back in my pocket. My job at the marketing firm wasn't glamorous, but it was challenging and fulfilling in ways I'd forgotten work could be. I'd started as a junior account manager, a humbling step down from my previous position, but had already earned one promotion through actual effort rather than charm. My apartment was a 15-minute walk from the coffee shop. Small, but mine, decorated simply with furniture I'd actually bought rather than charged to Derek's credit cards. The framed photo on my entry table caught my eye as I walked in. Me and Claire hiking last summer, sweaty and laughing. No makeup, no pretense. That evening, my phone pinged with a dating app notification. After months of therapy-mandated singlehood, I'd cautiously created a profile with Dr. Levinson's help. No filtered photos, no exaggerations, just me, with a biography that emphasized kindness and authenticity over status or appearance. The message was from Michael, a high school English teacher I'd been chatting with for a week. Still on for Saturday? There's a new exhibit at the art museum I thought we could check out first. I smiled as I typed my response. Looking forward to it. I set my phone down and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights beginning to twinkle against the darkening sky. A year ago, I would have dismissed a teacher as not successful enough, the art museum as not exciting enough. I would have been chasing the perfect life picture, the right man with the right job and the right house. Now I understood that none of that was real. It was all just pretty wrapping paper around an empty box. I was building something different now, something real and solid and mine, starting with myself. And for the first time in a very long time, I was genuinely looking forward to tomorrow.